All right. Here we go, guys and gals. And boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing, drivers.
Welcome back to the Loose Wheel Show. My name is Andrew Hazlett. Ethan Ignatowski is somewhere.
I'm here. Wherever
Yeah,
here is.
yeah, that's not known by anyone.
It's confidential.
Yeah. Um, Episode number 19. Ethan can see my face, but no one else can because I am gonna put the logo over this. So yay. Episode
Yeah,
number
Andrew, I like the room that you're in. I like the stars in the background. It's
Yeah,
very nice.
yeah. I'm in space.
Yeah, the whoever is listening to this already clicked off. They're like, what are these two waffling about?
They're we're really just a worse Clarkson, Hammond, and May.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we don't even have a third person. That's how fraudulent we are.
So we're really just a worse Hammond and May.
Yeah.
Because Clarkson's the best one.
You're May, I'm Hammond.
I will take that because I feel like our personalities kind of align.
That's why I said that.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, into the actual racing thing.
And now
stuff.
for last
Indy
week's
Road
race
for
reviews.
Indy Next at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Your Indy Next winners were Dennis Hauger and Lockie Hughes. But
Other way around though, because
oh,
Conger won the second race and Hughes won the first race.
well, I felt like going in alphabetical order.
Okay.
Regardless, Kiffin Simpson qualified around like 12th or so. He had an issue on the grid, didn't even get going during the race. So his day derailed before it began. Alex Palou is on pole, a story we've heard before, but Graham Rahal immediately got the lead. And the third oldest driver in the IndyCar series held it for a while. We had a good bit of action throughout the field. You had Connor Daly spinning one of the Prema cars, the 90th Callum Eilert. Herta had an issue and fell a lap down. He was running near the top. Just Andretti is literally the IndyCar equivalent of Ferrari. I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. That's two races in a row. Herta's ran top 5, top 10 before the team just flat out screws something up. If that's not Ferrari type stuff, I don't know what is, Ethan. Then we had David Malukas spin Marcus Ericsson, who had an engine issue and was going to pit anyway. So don't feel bad for Marcus because he got spun. But Marcus was done for the day after that. With his engine issue. We had green flag pit stops. We had the 60 of this Felix Rosenquist spun. Then as coming to the next set of green flag pit stops, Jacob Abel was holding up Graham Rahal. And these two were both Hondas. So it was like, okay, maybe Honda's gonna let the other Honda through. But no, that didn't happen. But also Alex Palou was a Honda, so it didn't really make that much of a difference at the end of the day. Lundgaard had a pit exit issue where he got a penalty. Devlin DeFrancesco stalled on pit road, and he was fourth at the time. We then had Alex Palou grab the lead right before the final round of green flag pit stops, and then for the first time in over 250 laps, I think it was, Ethan, we had a caution in the IndyCar series.
Wow, it's been that long.
Yeah, it's been since race 1. Lap 1 was the only other caution. So through 5 races, we have had 2 cautions in IndyCar. And then Alex Palou ran away with it. We had a podium of Palou, Pato, and Power, your 3 Ps. And then Jack Harvey in the interviews was interviewing Palou, and he said, "I ran out of good things to say about you. You keep winning so much." So I would give this race a 5 out of 10. It was kind of boring on paper, but was more interesting compared to its paper, what it looks on paper, because you had the drama of, okay, Palou's there. When's he gonna finally pass Ray Hall? And I don't know what happened to Ray Hall. Like, he just disappeared. I I think he wound up finishing 4th. Let me look this up real quick because shows you how great I am. No, I don't want NASCAR. I want IndyCar. Um, shows you how much I pay attention here. But yeah,
Really slacking.
Graham Rahal ended up finishing 6th. I think he had some sort of. I think he was just. I think he had the not the harder tire at the end, which set him back. If I remember correctly. But now Alex Palou has won 4 of the first 5 races.
He's insane.
Insane in a spec series. He has a point lead of over 100. No, not quite 100. 97 points. That's insane. The
If this guy can just get like that much better on ovals, it's gonna be time for some serious discussions.
Yeah, because he we said it before last week about how good he's been, and I texted my dad is that I he currently has a bigger gap to second now than when he won his most dominant championship. That's saying something.
That's insane. That is insane.
And then I kind of said, I told him, I remember you telling me when Tom Brady was winning all the Super Bowls with the Patriots to appreciate greatness, and I understand what you meant, but now I do. Like, what we're seeing out of Alex Palou is like Jack Harvey said, I've ran out of good things to say. Like,
Yeah,
genuinely, like
we've already said it all.
we've got it on ad nauseum, and he just continues to be so great. So moving over to Kansas, Carson Hocevar won the Truck Series while flipping off Lane Riggs. Moving
W
into
picture.
Yeah, that did provide some cool images. Uh, Kyle Larson led from pole, and then 3 4 laps in, AJ Allmendinger's engine just lets go,
And he
which
was upset about it.
yeah, well, he's a guy who gets upset easily. Um, kind of Yuki Tsunoda-esque.
Yeah, but I mean, like he was really upset about it, and I can't blame him. But yeah, you guys should go listen to that like onboard audio if you haven't heard it already.
Like he genuinely like Ethan. I've heard him get angry on the radio over a first place car sometimes where when he gets back in traffic and complains and proceeds to drive up to the front sometimes with that car. Like dude is NASCAR's Yuki Tsunoda, except he is way older. And
Yeah.
you'd think he'd be wiser, but no, he has a lot of rage in him. Anyway,
Wow.
he's cool though. Anyway, going down uh, that. After we got going, we had green flag pit stops. William Byron had a flat right rear, took him out of contention. Then Larson won stage 2. Larson was first off in stage 2, green flag pit stops. Larson won stage 2. And then here's where the race started to get interesting. Chase Elliott led off of pit road, passing Larson. Brad Keselowski, who we've talked about, has had such a disappointing season so far. He was running second, and then Ethan has a right rear tire go down. Caution comes out. His day is done. So when he finally has a good run, he something out of his control. It's still in the team's control of how you set these air pressures, but something like that goes. Like you feel for the guy a bit. And then Christopher Bell was first off. Uh, Chase Elliott had a terrible stop. Uh, Jackman went down too early. The right rear tire changer wasn't done. Changing everything. So yeah, and then where did Ty Dillon and Suarez were all involved in the wreck, and on that Larson, who was second on the restart, had jumped Bell. So that was a little bit of interest. And then Kyle Busch spun. He was running decently. And then you had Jones, Wallace, and Haley crash. And then Kyle Larson won. I would guess 3 out of 10. Outside of that, there was the one stretch where Elliott led through that stint where Larson just didn't look like he had it, but regard at the end of the day, he wound up winning this race. So it wasn't very exciting at the end of the day. I
Well,
would
this marks like actually I don't even know what it marks anymore. I've lost track of how many weeks, Andrew, you have disagreed with Jeff Gluck's good race poll. It's been a while now.
I give this one a 3 out of 10. Let me pull up the NASCAR schedule. And even the ones where I thought, "Oh, this is a good race." I didn't think, "Ooh, there has been a great race in a while."
I think the reason, well, first off, I just think
I
it's funny that you keep disagreeing with large hordes of the NASCAR audience. But the reason that I understand why this race was liked by so many people, and the reason that I know it wasn't liked by you, is because if there isn't action happening at the front, you don't really care. And you know that's true.
yeah.
Whereas other fans are looking at it, looking at the action in the middle of the pack, and they're like, yeah, there's a lot going on over there. That's pretty interesting. That's pretty exciting. So that's really what we're looking at here, in my opinion. Looking at it from a step back.
That may be true, and I think another thing that made me kind of not appreciate this race maybe as more as I could have is because I watched it today, Wednesday, when I had known the results already for 3 whole days.
Well, yeah,
Maybe I would have given it a 4 or 5, but I don't think I would have gone further than that. But I know Kansas and Texas, I said no when it said yes. Talladega, I said yes when they said no. Bristol, I don't I believe I said no with that. I don't know what the good race poll said. Uh, Darlington, I said no. Martinsville, I said no. But the last really interesting race we had was Homestead. And Homestead, Las Vegas, like these, the first six, I think we went about 6 of the first 8 were all pretty good. And then after the stretch that we're on, 3, 6 races that have all just been uh, underperforming. Even though I said Talladega was a good race, I still thought it underperformed what I wanted it to be.
Mhm.
So, going to North Wilkesboro, my expectations are low. I think we'll have another bad race. Um, Charlotte, I think that's going to be bad too. Uh, Nashville and
Andrew, do
Michigan.
you have any optimism?
Nashville and Michigan. If they're, we'll see how the car races at the next two races. If I see a little bit of increase in performance, we could have optimism
There you go.
for Nashville and Michigan. There's a chance, and then we go to Mexico City, which I will say that's going to be a good race.
It'll at least be interesting.
So in 5 races from now, actually, yeah, 5 races from now, there's going to be a good race. That's
Is that the Andrew guarantee?
that is the Andrew guarantee. No, it would
Is
be
it a
fun.
money back guarantee?
No, well, if you're putting money on whether a race is going to be good in the good race poll, first of all, what are you doing with your life? And second of all, like NASCAR
Well,
fans are like NASCAR fans as a NASCAR kind of a NASCAR fan myself, as a
some would say.
as somewhere between a fan and a reporter. So I feel like that's where we truly are. Um, I think NASCAR fans don't know what they want.
I'm glad you said it so I didn't have to.
Um, I yeah. With that said, I do want to take away something. 2311 Racing. I messaged our friend Sean. I said, "Oh, Tyler Reich's gonna have a good race today, uh, or this weekend. You know, Toyota's really good there. 2311 in particular. 2311 this weekend, Ethan, went 17th, 33rd, 27th, and 13th. Not a very good weekend. But the 13th, Ethan, wasn't Tyler Reddick, wasn't Bubba Wallace. It's not Riley Herbst. It was Corey Heim, their fourth driver.
Yeah.
So this kid needs to be in the Cup Series.
Yeah.
And I've said it before. Ty Gibbs and Corey Heim in ARCA had a beef. For whatever reason they did. And part of the reason why he's in why Corey Heim has never driven a Joe Gibbs car is because him and Ty don't like each other. And on this kid is way too talented to be shut out of that. Like if it was uh one of the Gray brothers, that would be okay. That would make sense. The Gray brothers have
Gray brothers catching strays.
well, win a race and then I won't give you strays. That's the way it is. Like the Gray brothers. Who else has driven for that? Dean Thompson, uh, Tony Breidinger. Like those
I
people have
mean,
driven this top equipment for a little bit, and for some of these guys, a lot of bit. Not none of them have won anything. But you have Corey Heim winning bunches of Truck Series races, and he's still in the Truck Series when Taylor Gray and Dean Thompson are been promoted to Toyota Xfinity Series teams. Make that make sense? Doesn't make sense to me.
we've already talked about how he deserves to be in the Cup Series. We've also talked about though how there just isn't really an obvious seat for him right now. So this isn't like an issue that's going to be resolved anytime soon. But at the very least, like he needs to be moving on to the Xfinity series. Do we like do we see any openings for him there, Andrew?
I'm looking at the Cup Series right now. I'm going to get back to your Xfinity Series. Riley Herbst has a best finish of 14th on the year. He's had this Cup car for however many races the season has gone on. Himes beat that in one race. Just want to put that out there.
Yeah, but 2311 isn't going to get rid of Riley Herbst, who brings money in to the team after one rookie season that hasn't set the world on fire.
Going into Toyota's Xfinity right now, they have 5 cars, 4 with Gibbs and 1 with Sam Hunt. Sam Hunt, I think that's the most likely possibility. They could expand to 2 cars full time. They've got a part time car, which Heim does drive for, but they have Dean Thompson in that Sam Hunt seat. And I'm just gonna look at how their owner points are this year compared to previous years. Right now, they're not shown. Wikipedia doesn't have it updated, but previous years they've gone 23rd, 18th, 19th, 19th. And the Xfinity Series driver point standings, which has fewer drivers than owners points, because there's a couple of all-star cars, so this number is going to be a little higher than it actually is. Thompson runs 17th or 16th rather. So
Have
actually, I can pull this up.
Has there like been any indication though that his seat isn't safe going forward? Like, is there a chance that if that team stays a one-car team, Corey Heim could take over their one ride?
Well, they're 18th in owner points right now. I'm just to button up that thing, but I don't know. I don't. This is the first time Sam Hunt Racing has had a full time driver in their
They're
team.
probably not interested in going to two.
I don't. They could go to 2. I don't. I just if they did get 2 full time cars, I don't. I think they'd rather run an all star car, quite frankly. And then at Gibbs, one of their cars is going to be an all star car for sure. You have
Well, we already talked about how, Gibbs
even
isn't going to happen.
even still, let's think about it. Even if they said they did decide to reconcile, one of their cars is going to be an all-star car. You've got Brandon Jones, who they just brought in back to the team, who's run a race this year and has done really well. And then you have rookies Taylor Gray and William Sawalch. Probably not going to get rid of them anytime soon, at least. And so Gray is running 14th in driver standings, and Sawalch just had a disappointing 25th. Like, okay, you might say, okay, Andrew, they might get rid of Sawalch, but Sawalch his family has a lot of money, so.
And you're not going to get rid of someone who has shown the ability that Sawallish has shown in the past after 1 year.
Mm,
That just doesn't make sense.
I mean, he hasn't really done much outside of ARCA, which
Well, that's the proving ground to get
well,
into at least trucks or Xfinity, right? Like, yeah, people come from dirt and other avenues, but if you perform in ARCA, like, and you do as well as he did, like, I can't imagine that a team owner is gonna cut you loose after your rookie season.
that is true, but ARCA, he was given the best car in ARCA by a hop, skip, and a jump.
Still got to perform, but yeah, fair
Yeah,
enough.
I don't think they'll get rid of him, but he brings in too much money at the end of the day. So at the end of the day, it would have to take someone to step up full time, and there isn't anyone that I don't think would. I don't think I don't think Tricon wants to or has the resources to make go full time. Maybe they could get their cup operate. I don't even think they'll get their cup operation for anything after a part-time car, because just with where Toyota's at, I don't think they really need it. I don't think Tricon really needs it. So maybe you look into, I don't know what the legacy guys' contracts are, but maybe put them in a legacy card. They are trying to. We do know Legacy is trying to get a charter. This is their whole Rick Ware lawsuit that we've discussed on the show before. Maybe if they do get that charter, maybe Kime goes there. that's a possibility. But outside of that, I don't know where Heim's going to go. I just can't figure out any promotion. And this is a guy who quite we everyone knows deserves it. So I don't know what to say after that. So want to head into the news, Ethan?
And now for the news.
Yeah, let's do it. So, do I want to start off with this or do I want to save it for last? I'll save it for last. Over the Miami weekend, there were a lot of rumors about if a contract could be announced for Sergio Perez. That obviously did not happen. But, Mario Andretti, who is in an advisory role with this team, did have good things to say about him. He was asked directly by Fox Sports, and he said that he's a driver that's being considered. Of course, he had to do the whole "we can't divulge any, information" type thing, but he was complimentary of Sergio Perez as one would expect, and I just think that he is the likeliest driver out of anyone that's being talked about to get one of those seats. I think obviously he's not a lock or anything until anything is announced, but I do think that he is the closest thing to a lock that we have in this conversation. I could be totally wrong. He could totally not get it, but just the way that the rumor mill is talking, and then the way that people like Mario Andretti are talking, I have to think that Sergio Perez has a very good shot. Someone on the flip side, though, he may be running out of favor with Cadillac is Colton Herta. Cadillac's team principal, Graham, I think his name is Graham Loudon. He basically downplayed the urgency of Cadillac getting an American driver or needing an American driver. And we've known for a while now that they weren't going to sign an American just to sign an American. That's nothing new. Mm-hmm. But he did seem to downplay Colton Herta stepping into that car. So Colton Herta's chances of jumping over to F1 after, Helmut Marko wanted him for a while. He was being thought of with Cadillac. I think that now it's more so Sergio Perez, Valtteri Bottas, Mick Schumacher, and Zhou Guanyu as the finalists. And, if I had to guess, I think that it is going to be Sergio Perez and Zhou Guanyu. I already mentioned why I think it's going to be Perez. I think that, hope you want to hope that his time at Red Bull didn't basically do what Daniel Ricciardo's time at McLaren did and kind of ruin his career, because if Perez can get back to what he was at Force India and later Racing Point, you have to look at him as someone that can be a team leader who can bring a car into the midfield and be able to lead a midfield team. If he can't do that, then obviously that is extremely unfortunate for Cadillac if they do go his direction. But he does have that possibility. We've seen how good he can be. Valtteri Bottas would be another interesting piece there, but I think that Perez honestly has more to offer. at this stage. And then the reason why I think Zhou Guanyu is quite simply Graham Loudon is Zhou Guanyu's manager. Is that a little bit of a conflict of interest? Potentially, but we see this happen all the time in Formula One. I mean, Flavio Briatore is Jack Doohan's manager, and I believe now also he might not be Franco Colapinto's manager. That might be totally wrong, but I know for a fact that he is Jack Doohan's manager, which might hurt this argument. But like, we see guys in the paddock who have roles already be managers. Toto Wolff was Esteban Ocon's manager for a while. Fernando Alonso is Gabriel Bortoletto's manager. But this could be an instance where we see someone in charge of a team be able to bring their guy in. And it wouldn't surprise me if that happened. I don't think that Zhou has shown enough to warrant another crack at Formula One.
I agree.
I don't think that he was like wrongly kicked out of the sport or anything. I just don't think that he's shown enough. So I think that would be a mistake. But if I had to guess right now who those two would be, it'd be Perez and Zhou.
Going back to Colton Herta, when this was all kind of started to kick around, I felt like it was around 2021 time. And at that point, Colton Herta's IndyCar career started in 2019, won full time, won on his second race in his the full time season, third race in his career, and won 2 races in that season in a team that hadn't had much success in Harding Steinbrenner racing. Finished 7th. Then moved over to the team, and Andretti bought into that team because they wanted Colton Herta. And they knew what a great driver Herta was. In that 2020 season, the shortened year, he went up to 3rd. And then the next year, Andretti moved him in-house, and he finished 5th, a little decrease. And so there's still a lot of reasonable buzz around Colton Herta. In his 3 full-time years, he finished 7th, 3rd, and 5th, all top 10 results, and he had a total of 6 wins in 3 years. Very respectable. And then I believe 3 more podiums as well. So very, very respectable, very solid. Not top of the line, but you see, okay, this guy, he hasn't peaked yet. There's still a lot of hype around him. He's going to develop and get better. And then 2022 season, 2022 and 23 seasons are very similar in the fact that he finished 10th in both years in the standings, with a 1st and a 2nd in as his only podiums in 22, and then only a 3rd in 23. So a complete disappearance, but his name was still getting talked about. And now 2024, he had a resurgent year with two wins, and then 2 seconds and 2/3 to finish 2nd in the series. And now in 2025, even though it's only 5 races in, no wins, no podiums.
He's also been kind of done wrong by strategies a couple times and just been unlucky, I feel like.
Currently 9th in the standings, but regardless, still a very solid driver. But at the end of the day, if I'm a Formula One team, I wouldn't be picking him up. And I'm a guy who, quite frankly, I'd love to see an American driver in F1. Colton Herta is not the guy. I don't believe that he's the guy. I think he will make a very good IndyCar driver. I don't know if he'll win a championship or two. I think 2 championships is his ceiling in IndyCar. A lot of that being hampered by Alex Palou's existence. But even if Alex Palou were to go, I still think, okay, he'd still have tough time winning championships. He's got a tough teammate in Kyle Kirkwood, who's currently second in the standings right now. He might be if I'm an F1 team, he might be the guy I'm looking at. He's the only guy who's beat Alex Palou this year. Also, you've got your McLaren boys who are doing real well, and Pato and Lundgaard. Glockland, Dixon, Power, Rosenquist always, no matter where he's at, does well. Same thing with Rossi, kind of those guys. Joseph Newgarden, even though he's not where he should be this last couple of years, he's still a 3-time champion. The IndyCar grid's a very tough grid to win championships on, and to get those quality wins and championships. It's because there's so many guys that can do it. But yeah, a lot of competition we've heard. I just don't believe he's the guy. I also think Zhou isn't the guy either, because he didn't do it very well in F1. So at the end of the day, it's kind of interesting because this Andretti project is kind of set up by, we want to get Colton Herta an F1 shot, and it's kind of developed into now what we see in Cadillac, and now saying, we don't really want Colton Herta. So it's kind of interesting to see that development.
It is. I think if we're talking about pure, I don't want to say like pure merit, but if I'm the one making the decisions here, which I'm not, but if I was, I would choose Sergio Perez and Teo Porcher. I think that is the driver lineup that I would go with. I, to this day, am still really high on Teo Porcher, but we've reached the point where just so many people have passed up on bringing him into even IndyCar full time that I don't know if there's just something I'm not seeing, if there's something I'm missing, but Teo Porcher and Sergio Perez would be my two guys. I mean, Teo Porcher is still 21 years old. Like that's kind of crazy. I don't know.
Yeah. I definitely consider those two. It depends. I think money is a huge factor. If it was true, it was truly based on talent alone, those would be two. But I do you gotta consider money. I would consider Valtteri. How much does he bring in? I would consider. I would not consider Mick Schumacher unless he brings in a huge boatload of cash that no one else can bring. Quite frankly, but I don't think he can, so that's why I'm not considering him. I would also.
I think he sponsorship power.
Well, I don't know, but I'd also consider Felipe Drugovich, who, like Porsche, won an F2 championship and has been passed aside that no one wants him. Okay, this is a guy who clearly has some talent. He might not be the guy, but okay, let's find out. So we might have gold here, but we also might have dirt. That's the same thing for Porsche. I don't think I don't think it'll be that extreme with either, but I think.
But like I would consider more so one seat you have is like your veteran seat, guy who brings in money, guy who can help the team adjust to life in Formula One. Perez fits that role perfectly. I think, yes, you do also consider Valtteri, but Perez fits that role perfectly because of the experience he brings in, and also Perez brings in just so much money in sponsorships. He has so many sponsors that come along with him. And then, the second seat, I would look to be young guy who you have your eye on as someone who could maybe be something.
Yeah, I agree. You look at Prema and IndyCar, and they kind of did a similar thing where they brought in Callum Ilott, who None of their good drivers really had the money, but Cam had the experience and say, okay, this is how he can guide a new team with a couple years at Juncos and then some time with, I believe he had might have done a sub race with McLaren if my memory serves me right. But regardless, experience, and then they brought in a rookie in Robert Schwartzman, who kind of balances out. So I think that's a proven way of thinking. And I think it's also a good way of thinking.
Frederick Vesti is also a guy that I would be interested to see what a team thinks of. But yeah, I think we've talked about this enough. So moving on, Andrew. If you remember, I don't remember how many weeks ago, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, we talked about how the FIA and Mohammed Ben Sulayem were talking about changes to the swearing rules and penalties that come along with that. And we have some closure on that, Andrew. Improvements were made. So now, and I think this is a really great compromise, because you have the professional side and then you have the side where it's like, yeah, you're on track and you're racing with adrenaline. And what I mean by that is stewards and the people that, give out these penalties now are able to differentiate between what is being called controlled environments and non-controlled environments. So, for example, Andrew, a press conference, that's a controlled environment. You still can't swear there. Like you need to be able to be professional when talking to the media, because that is quotes where you don't have adrenaline or anything running through you, and you need to be able to be more professional, and I understand that. And then you have the non-controlled areas, which are, when you're on track, when you're, when you got things going on, obviously you would expect to hear some colorful language. You're also now seeing that the maximum penalty has been reduced from 10,000 euros to 5,000 euros. And stewards will have the option to fully suspend a penalty if it's the driver or the team's first offense. All this is coming from ESPN, by the way. But yeah, that's basically that. Like, it's an improvement that I like to see, because I think the drivers don't have to be so uptight anymore, but you would still expect someone to be professional at a press conference. So makes sense to me.
Yeah, it does to me too.
Of course, though, because it is shout out to MBS. He did something good. However, I think it is I don't think the universe can let this guy get on a hot streak. He works too hard for it to not happen. I missed this over the Miami Grand Prix weekend, but he floated the idea of getting rid of the cost cap because it causes headaches, which I have to say is crazy. It's not a headache for teams to follow the cost cap. He said, and this is a direct quote from the AP, "I'm looking at the cost cap and it's just giving the FIA a headache. So what's the point of it? I don't see the point. I really don't." Well, Mr. President of the FIA, the point of it is so the teams have a more even playing field. We've seen now in the cost cap era, teams like McLaren be able to, you know, jump up the field and become the fastest car. I'm not sure if that would happen if the cost cap wasn't there. We've seen teams in the midfield be so close together, and that is because the cost cap exists. Is it like a perfect fix to all of F1's issues? Absolutely not. But it is, I think, a lot better for the sport than not. I'm just very surprised that this idea is even being floated.
Yeah, I agree. So MVS, Mohammed Ben Burnt Salmon. You get the chicken award. I agree. It's like F1 is not going to do something like sports cars do, balance of performance of where they put weights, more weight on some cars, less weight on some to make the more racing interesting. They're not going to do something like that. So F1's going to do the next best thing and say, okay, you can only spend so much. We're going to regulate testing time, I believe, and wind tunnel time, whatever.
That's separate, right?
But
That's separate from the cost cap.
well, the overall point I'm making is like we're going to kind of naturally get teams closer together instead of artificially with adding weights and stuff like that. And I think it's good. I think it's good for the sport. You can't let these teams go crazy. So I'm gonna just do a couple squeaks here. Hopefully, it's getting picked up.
It is getting picked up.
Yes, I'm happy.
Yeah. I also want to point out that he wasn't even like asked about the cost cap or anything. He somehow was able to spin that out from a question where he was addressing Red Bull's claims that McLaren is putting water into the Pirelli tires in order to cool them, which is
Must be the water.
according to Pirelli, like impossible. So Christian Horner, you get the Sir Lancelot Medal of Intelligence for that groundbreaking idea. Maybe you should try it out. I have no idea how MVS was able to take the cost cap from that, and I have no idea how Christian Horner came up with the idea that McLaren was putting water into the tires. Just great things happening around the Formula One paddock, Andrew. Great things.
That's the first time you've given the Sir Lancelot Medallion of Excellence in twice in a week, or twice back to back, since I started keeping track, which was in episode 7. So yeah.
Last piece of F1 news, though, Andrew, unless you have anything else to say before I get to the big piece of news.
Yeah, go at it.
All right. So, Andrew, we thought that Oliver Oakes left Alpine as team principal because, I mean, after he left, Franco Colapinto was announced to take over from Jack Doohan. So it seemed logical to believe that was the reasoning. There was, a fight internally, and Oliver Oakes and Flavio Briatore decided to go their separate ways because Flavio wanted Franco Colapinto in the seat. Shortly after that, we got word that, no, they still have a good relationship, and it was something else that caused this. And Andrew, something else that seems to have led to Oliver Oakes resigning is his brother, William, was arrested recently in the United Kingdom, and charged with transferring criminal property. He was found with large amounts of cash on him, and Oliver himself flew straight to Dubai after the Miami Grand Prix weekend. So isn't that something? I want to say thank you to Planet F1. They put together a detailed article, I would say, that shows everything that happened. So shout out Planet F1 and Elizabeth Blackstock for making my life a little easier, because this is a bit of a crazy situation here, Andrew. William Oakes and Oliver Oakes, of course, are involved with High Tech GP, which is Formula 2, Formula 3 team that the Oakes brothers basically run now that Oliver was running Alpine. William was, I don't know if he was like technically team principal or what his deal was, but like heavily involved in that team. I don't know if they were running it, but heavily involved in that team. Like Oliver founded the team, right? Like this is their passion project. What happened though is that some time ago, a man named Nikita Mazepin and his father, Dmitry Mazepin, wanted Nikita in Formula One. And how did they go about this? Well, through High Tech. Nikita came up the ranks in High Tech, and Dmitry bought a ownership stake in High Tech. His company, Your Alkali, which would later go on to sponsor Haas during Nikita's infamous time there, sponsored High Tech. And you had, known Russian oligarch Dmitry Mazepin very involved in High Tech. Now, before, I believe it was like a week before Russia invaded Ukraine, again, known oligarch and friend, I suppose, of Vladimir Putin, Dmitry Mazepin, sold his stake in High Tech, and a holding company was basically set up, I believe, that I believe like the structure of this holding company was that, Dmitry Mazepin could still make profit or have something to do with High Tech. This is the part where it's like I don't exactly know how this all goes down, and it's important to remember that like all this stuff is alleged, but that is now where we're at with, we know that there's this holding company that exists. We know that Oliver Oakes' brother William was arrested and charged with transferring criminal property. Everything else, is alleged and all that. But fact of the matter is Oliver Oakes has flown to Dubai. His brother was arrested with amounts of cash. And there's some stuff going on that, at least based off media reports, appears to be, I guess, shady, for lack of a better term. So that's not the turn that I expected the Oliver Oakes resignation story to take, Andrew. I'll tell you that much.
No, I was surprised when I saw the news, quite frankly.
Yeah. Yeah, like the purpose of the holding company, her Planet F1, was to create a legal separation between the business's assets and its owners, aiding in the reduction of some liabilities and taxation. So I'm not sure exactly if the Mazepins had. I saw something elsewhere that said that they did have something to do. Yeah, through his investment company, Bergton Management, Mazepin increased his ownership to 75%, but these shares were relinquished to Oaks through a holding company named High Tech Global Holdings in March 2022 upon commencement of Russia's military action in Ukraine and the imposing economic sanctions upon Russia and the EU and the UK. So I don't know if, like, absolutely no clue if Mazepin was still getting money. I'm not saying that at all. I've seen some people online say similar things. I don't know. I really don't. But the whole situation is just crazy.
Yeah. Do you want to move into the previews now?
And now for next week's race previews.
Yeah, well, you have Imola coming up for Formula One. And you have it's not sprint weekend, you have F2 and F3 there though. But yeah, nothing else to say really. I mean, as we mentioned last week, Franco Colapinto is going to be in the seat for Jack Doohan for at least the next 6 races, I believe it is. But beyond that, yeah, nothing to say.
Yeah. All-Star race at North Wilkesboro. The heat races are now an increase from 50 to 75. I think it was 60 actually, but increased to 75 laps. Still useless. Still no good. Like, what's the point of qualifying if you're just gonna have a heat race after? I don't know. Anyway, some couple driver changes here. Cody Ware moves to the 15 as Harrison Burton moves to the 51. He will be in the All-Star race because he won the Daytona race last year, the night race. So, like, that makes perfect sense to have a guy who's eligible in the race drive the race car. Also, Garage 66 MBM is entering with Chad Fincham. Their entry that sometimes shows up when they want to. So the 5. My 5 drivers this week. Your 2 previous All-Star race winners, Joey Logano and Kyle Larson. Your All-Star Open winners, I'm adding, are Josh Berry and Ty Gibbs. And then for my 5th choice, I'm going to go back to the 2020 iRacing Pro Invitational Series when Denny Hamlin won. Also, he's kind of good at short tracks. I don't know if you know. Yeah, Hamlin's a good driver, and I think he can be a threat to win there. Your driver changes in trucks. Brent Cruz is going to be in the 1 truck for Tricon this weekend. That's his debut, so be curious to see how he can do. The youngster. The rest of the 02 is going to be Jason Alexander for Young's Motorsports. 2 in the 22 for Rayom Brothers is Tyler Tomasi and Morgan Baird. Norm Benning will be driving his own number 6 truck.
Let's go.
Your Spire trucks are going to be Kyle Busch in the 07, Sammy Smith in the 7. Nice Motorsports has hired a guy with a reputation that's not a good one to drive their 44, and that being Connor Jones. 66 ThorSport will be driven by Luke Baldwin this week. 67 for Freedom Racing Enterprises will be driven by Ryan Roulette. 75 for Henderson will be driven by Patrick Emmerling. Justin Carroll will be in the 90 for his family team site. Where that rounds it out. Moving over to pick points.
And now for next week's race picks.
For the first time in let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. Ethan beat me in points. So that's, I wouldn't say sight for sore eyes because my eyes weren't sore, but for Ethan's eyes, maybe a sight for sore eyes. I don't know. He's not talking right now. He took.
You're monologuing right now, but if you want me to talk, I can talk. I don't know. I'm been confident this entire time that I'm going to make this a three-peat. I knew that I was eventually gonna, make another pull out ahead. So that's currently what you know, what we're experiencing, right? Like Andrew, I've told you my strategy a million times. I lull you into a false sense of security, and then I start to run away.
If I ever had, first of all, there's no security here.
No. There was, because you were talking. You were like, "Oh, if I keep this up, I'll have you beat by blah blah blah," and like that. That's just
The first word, Ethan. If, if, Max Verstappen once said, "If my mom had balls, she'd be my dad." So let's not get too caught up in that because I do want to remind you of that. But anyway, you took 17, I took 11. Guest took.
Hey, you're the one who's talking about if, bro. Like I'm the one that's done it. 2-time champ, about to be 3-time.
You took. We had 5 races last week, Ethan. You got points in all 5 races. So
Because I know we are.
good week for you. In the Indy next round 1, we all got 1 point with Hauger. Ethan and I got 5 in the next round with the Hauger. We all got 5 from Alex Palou winning the IndyCar road race there at IMS road course. You and Morgan got 1 point for Byron beating Heim. Heim had an issue. And Kyle Larson won the race, 5 points for you. So moving into this week, our guest pickers, because we have multiple. We have Rome Katie, who's been on the show in the past this season, picking your Formula races, and Will Anderson, a first-time picker, long-time associate. Not gonna say fan because I don't know if we have those outside of Jim Tremmel. Picked the NASCAR this weekend. So with that all being said, Formula 3 Sprint Imola. You and I, Ethan, took Rafael Camara.
My guy, dude.
Except you spelled his name wrong, I think. Or maybe I did. But I don't know.
I spelled his name wrong. He's still my guy, though. I just might have dyslexia.
Yeah, you spelled camera.
Yeah,
Anyway, our guest took Nikola Tusov.
Kozlov. And Rome also took Rafael Camara in the feature race.
We all did too. For Formula 2, I honestly had no clue who to pick. Our guest went with Alex Dunn.
I like that pick.
The sprint race. Joshua Dirksen did well in the one of the races there. So I picked him in the sprint. You went with you say your pick.
Richard for sure. Because I don't really know why, honestly. I mean, this dude has been in F3 for a million years, or F2, sorry, for a million years. At this point, like the results need to start filing in, and they are. I mean, through 3 rounds, he is leading the championship.
He's been in F2. This is his 5th year.
Yeah, he's been there for a million years. So you know, the results need to start coming in now. And like I said, you know, fair enough. They are. So about as good of a pick as any right now, since this is kind of
Go ahead.
it's
Finish
a
your.
weak year. It's a weak year, I believe, in F2. Like
Mhm.
guys that I think have like getting a little off track here, but like guys who I think have like potential to have like a serious career in some form of open wheel racing and be successful to some extent in whatever open wheel racing that looks like. You know, we're looking at Gabriel Mini, uh, Dino Bogdanovich, Jack Crawford, Arvid Lingblad, Victor Martins, maybe Luke Browning, Alex Dunn. Like, there's I don't know.
I'm gonna add one to that right list.
Leo Fornaroli, Pepe Marti, but like none of
I'm
those.
I'm gonna add one to that list real quick. Remoto Miata, because he did
Yeah,
very well in the Japanese Formula racing that I can't think of right now.
yeah, Super Formula. Yes, I believe he's a Super Formula champion. I want to say, um, or he won like the Super Formula. Yeah, no, he did win Super Formula in 2023. There's guys with talent, but I don't know. Like Arvid Lingblad is probably and Alex Dunn are probably like the two guys that I'm like, yeah, I could see them in F1. Everyone else, Heavy Marty too, actually. But everyone else, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm talking about, dude. It's like you never know with these junior drivers, but I don't know. I don't like the like there's no Oscar Piastri this
Yeah.
year in F2. There's no Charles Leclerc. There's definitely no Albon, Russell, and Lando Norris. We don't have that type of we just don't have that right now.
I want to go back. We know Richard Verschoor is fairly old. I don't know how old he is, but when he started racing in F2, he raced against a few interesting names: Callum Ilott, Nikita Mazepin, Tatiana Calderon. He raced against Devlin DiFrancesco, Jehan Daruvala, Juan Manuel Correa, and Antoine Hubert. Those are some of the guys he raced against. And
Mm-hmm.
like, dude is old. Anyway,
Honestly, before we move on though, I want to say this. I don't even know if he wants to win F2 because that means he can't come back. No, I am joking, but I'm also not.
hold on, Ethan. I think there's a rule in place. After 5 years in F1 or F2, you can't stay for a sixth.
Really?
I believe that's a rule.
Okay.
This is his 50. I don't know if it's 5 full years. I don't know if he's had 5 full years. There could be a loophole there, but that said, moving back to pick points. I took Pepe Marti. I know he's having a good year this year, so that's why I picked him.
You say
Ethan,
you took Dirksen for the sprint race?
yeah, I did cover that. And then if you want to talk about your pick and the guest pick, because they're the same.
Yeah, both Rome and myself took Jack Crawford. He finished second in the feature race last round at Saudi Arabia. He hasn't in his I believe last year was the first time he raced there because I think that was the first time F2 went there, and I know that he didn't go there with he didn't go there in F3 definitely, but he has some experience there. And I backed him as like one of the better guys in this Formula 2 championship that I was just saying isn't strong. And actually looking at his resume right now, he did race there in Italian F4, so he does have experience there. Maybe that can help him out.
Ooh, Italian F4, how riveting. Anyway, moving
Hey, it's still experience on the track, but yeah.
to the big show. The guests and I both have Oscar Lando is the podium in that order. Oscar, kind of the hot driver right now.
Definitely.
You won Miami, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. I know. I definitely pay attention to F1 more than I let on. I'm looking at my pick points here. Won the last 2 races. Actually, won the last 3 races.
Yeah, he's going for 4.
Yeah, 3 in a row. He's been the he's won
Bell out
he's won 4 out of the last 5.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I didn't realize that. So, yeah,
He's
that
on fire right now. Like
that
there's
order speaks for itself. Ethan, if you want to explain your pick, then.
yeah. I have I have Oscar and Lando switched here. Because quite frankly, as much as it seems like Oscar is just controlling everything right now and seems unstoppable, I want to push back against that just a little bit. In Miami, Lando had better pace. We've seen Lando be super fast, even during this kind of down stretch. We've seen him be quick. Now, obviously, Oscar has results, and you have to commend him for that. But are those results? How long is Oscar gonna, win over Lando? Even if Oscar goes on to win the championship, he's not winning every single race. He's not beating Lando every single time out. Lando has been incredibly fast, and he is really good at Imola. That is one of his best tracks. Last year, he almost tracked down Max Verstappen for the win. He has a podium there. It's in that back in the days where McLaren wasn't, your dominant car that it is now. Back when a podium for McLaren was something to be celebrated.
Mm-hmm.
He's good there. He's gonna have to. He will, flip the script at some point.
Right.
I don't see why Imola wouldn't be that spot, quite frankly.
Right. For our third pick, picks, we went 3 different ways. I'll start off with myself. I went with George Russell. He always finds for me it was either him or the driver that Ethan's taking. And I feel like they've had about 50-50 split of that kind of third spot on the podium after the 2 McLarens. It's like, all right, which way do I want to go? And I feel
Funny is
Russell this week.
the other guy who we haven't named yet. He hasn't actually finished third. He's only finished second or first on the podium.
Interesting. Want to name that other guy, Ethan?
Yeah, Max Verstappen. That Red Bull is obviously more difficult to drive than in previous seasons. Obviously, not as fast as in previous seasons, but right now it is still a good car and a good enough car for Max Verstappen to get on the podium and win a race every now and then. He would have gotten third at Miami if things played out just a little bit differently. Which, I suppose you could say that for any race, but he would have finished third if he didn't try to defend as hard as he did. And I know that's like a hard thing to say, but him defending as hard as he did in Miami did cost him on pace a chance to finish on the podium. But on pace, I think that he is faster than George in that Mercedes. So I think it might be a little track specific too. But like I was saying, that's a track that Lando loves. Imola is also a track that Max loves. So that's why I have him on the podium.
Yeah, our guest Kimi Antonelli, he showed decent pace at Miami, if my
I
memory.
mean,
But
he was on sprint pole. The dude was flying at certain points over the weekend. There would be scenes if he got his first career podium in Formula One in Italy, where he is from.
yeah.
It would just be scenes.
So moving forward to NASCAR, finally, we have trucks and Cup All-Star Race. I'll explain my pick and then I'll let you explain your pick, Ethan.
Yeah.
And I went with Kyle Busch, Cup guy. I think he's he always does well in trucks, regardless if it was his equipment or now Spire's equipment. He'll be fine. Run well. And I want to say 2 weeks ago, I think trucks have raced in 3 consecutive weeks now. Yes. I said, okay, I'm going to take the Cup guy instead of taking Corey Heim. Corey Heim would have got me 5 points. Instead, we all each got a point, me, you, and Guess. So that was a 5 points swing there. That worked against me. And I said, okay, this week I've learned my lesson. I'm going to take Corey Heim. And instead of going with William Byron, that was only a 1 point swing. So that's 6 points that this kind of cost me. So now I'm back to Cup guy and going Kyle Busch. So we'll see how that goes. If you want to pick, announce your and the guest pick, because you and Will went the same way.
Well, I think that I might be potentially dumb to pick against Kyle Busch in the truck series, because if you look at it, he almost always does really, really well. And by really, really well, I mean like he's winning. And if he's not winning, he's like finishing second or third. But if there is one guy, Andrew, who can stand up against a Cup Series driver going down to Truck Series, a guy that we talked about earlier this episode, even as someone who can go up against the best of them in the Cup Series, it's Corey Heim. He is the only driver in the Cup Series this year with multiple race wins. He's leading by an absurd amount at this point. It is Corey Heim's playground, and Kyle Busch is going to go play in his playground, not the other way around. Mm-hmm. Now, Kyle Busch could still step in and be the bully, but I mean, it is equally as difficult to bet against Corey Heim, especially in his recent run of form where he has finished outside of the top 8 once.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, guys going the same way. Very, very good logic. Kyle Busch is Kyle Busch. I don't need
Yeah.
to explain further. Cup Series All-Star race. My original thought was go Kyle Larson. He's won there before. Joey Logano, the other winner, doesn't seem to have his form right now to where it can be. So I'm like, go Kyle Larson. But here's the thing. There might be a chance of conflicting things. And even though Larson said, oh, yeah, I want to be Cup is my focus, even with the All-Star race, you still wonder what's more important at the end of the day, trying to get the pole for the Indy 500 or a NASCAR race that doesn't award points. If those scenario happens to clash, I know which way I would go, and it isn't.
Yeah.
So without that possibility being said, I want to go, okay, let me make sure my guy's racing. And no offense to Justin Allgaier, he's a very capable driver, but I'd rather have my Justin at the end of the day, the second best option who I know is going to be there, than a guy who's the best option that might be there. So I think that second best option at the end of the day is Denny Hamlin. Very good at short tracks, like I said. Very like Bristol, he's good there. Martinsville, he's good there. Richmond, he's good there. I'm surprised he hasn't won in the 2 cracks yet. He's had it North Wilkesboro, quite frankly. Just saying.
So, Andrew, are you telling me that if my pick, who, spoiler alert, is Kyle Larson, are you telling me that if he doesn't race, I can't change my guy?
You'll get Justin Allgaier.
I'm gonna change my guy.
That's the substitute.
I'm gonna change my guy.
Oh, well, the guys are taking Kyle Larson. So with that all being said,
My new pick is Christopher Bell.
Here's the thing, if I hadn't made my pick already and went and spoke about Denny Hamlin the way I did, there's a good chance I'm flipping to Kyle Larson there after seeing you flip, but I'm going to keep it at Hamlin. But go ahead, talk about Christopher Bell.
Well, in the 2 seconds that I was made aware that I can't change Kyle Larson to anyone else per Andrew's rules, and Andrew is the pick points. As much as I dominate pick points is very much Andrew's child. So I'll listen to it. I'll listen in and abide by his rules. So in that 2 seconds, my brain went, man,
Commissioner.
who is good in NASCAR? Man, I don't know, man. Ooh, that's a tough one. I think Christopher Bell's good. Yeah, so that was pretty much my thought process there. I have no idea what his results look like at North Wilkesboro because I haven't had a chance to look. Because I'm doing this on the fly. But Christopher Bell's pretty good at driving a car in circles, so I think I'll go with him.
I guess taking Kyle Larson, I think it's a good pick. I guess
Can't
you need
to lose out on 5 points because Kyle Larson is going to win the All-Star race, and this was just a way for Andrew to get in my head and play some 8D chess.
That would be funny, but at the end of the day, you're still the one leading by 13. Very possible I could gain 13. Very possible I could lose 13 at the end of the day. So that's.
I mean, we have.
This week.
I can't do math, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different races that we're picking. So.
Do we want to end the episode here, or as previously teased on a previous episode, go through my 21 predictions that I made for the decade and see how they're doing? Do we want an hour later?
I'm just procrastinating cleaning my apartment and packing and all that stuff to get out of Arizona. So yeah, let's procrastinate some more. I mean, if the Warriors actually wanted to play competitive basketball right now, I'd say I'll watch that, but it's just going on in the background for me because the Golden State Warriors are not playing competitive basketball. So sure, let's do it, Andrew.
All right. So here are my 21 predictions that I made in the beginning of 2020. Prediction number 1. There will not be the same 3 national series in 2020 or 2030 rather. Meaning that some like in either that one the series would go away or they'd add a series or a series would significantly change body type like the Xfinity series possibly going to like SUVs hypothetically. That I would give like a 20% chance of happening. I think the biggest possibility is them flipping Xfinity or adding an electric series of sorts.
Yeah, that's been heavily like we know that NASCAR is interested in that. Something along those lines anyway.
Yeah, so that being said, I give this one there's a possibility. I think that was a kind of a long shot pick then, but here's one that I thought was not a long shot. Uh, the stocks were high on this driver. Haley Deegan will win a truck race. Just to say, she 5 years later isn't in NASCAR, over now in Indy next. Quite possibly one of the biggest prospects to fail that miserably. Just everyone was buying stock on her, and yeah, it was a swing and a miss for just about everyone. So another swing and a miss for me was Johnny Sauter will win a championship before retiring. I thought with the Thor Sport trucks, he might get one more and then decide to leave. Uh, he's now just been passed aside as kind of a part-time driver at this point. So I can safely say those two are not going to happen. Moving further down, I said Stuart Friesen will win a championship. And Stuart Friesen, he has been a guy who was trending up. He had, I think, just won his first couple races in that 2019 season, and was looking. Let me double check that. Yeah, won his first races in that 29 season. Won 2 races, finished 4th in the the series. I said, okay, he's been improving each year. Maybe this guy, I think this guy might be the real deal. And then the next year he goes out, finishes 15th, and then a couple 6th place finishes after, and then a 12th and a 5th, 2 12ths after to get to where we are now. Only one win after that rate, that 2019 season. So kind of, I don't think it's gonna happen, but it could happen. I give this one about a 10% chance there. At the end of the day, I don't. I think he's doing decently so far to start the year. 11th, so hanging around. Yeah, moving. Ethan, have you ever? What are your like? What are your evaluations so far on 2020 Andrew's level of genius?
Andrew didn't know wheel. Not much
Well,
is
my next one is Matt Crafton will win a championship before retiring. And Matt Crafton had been a guy who was never ever the most dominant guy, but he wound up to back his way into championships, and he backed into the 2019 championship without winning a race. And I thought, okay, maybe he's still got one more season in him, but since that season he's faded, and I don't that's likely not going to happen either. My next one, my final Truck Series prediction, and this one did happen. It was I get 99.9% chance of happening. Kind of a silly prediction. Natalie Decker will wreck, and she did wreck multiple times afterwards. But here, Ethan, is where I begin to no wheel. I predicted Justin Allgaier will win a championship. And he finally did it last year. We all got to see it for ourselves, but he kind of had a with Junior Motorsports coming in, he had 4 years of good results, third, seventh, and fourth. I'm like, yeah, he's got to get one at some point. Took him 5 years to do that. Hey, he did it. So yeah. Next one, Ethan. Going back on a similar train as before, Haley Deegan will win an Xfinity race. Yeah, not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting one I predicted. Colleague Racing will win 2 championships, and I've got a similar prediction that will tie into that later. But at that time, Colleague Racing was kind of on the up and up. I believe they had. I don't know if they had. I think they had signed aging at Allmendinger at that point, if my memory serves me right. Going to his racing reference real quickly. Oh my goodness, that's a lot. Yeah, I do believe. No, he had actually not. He didn't start racing with Colleague until 2021. So that's before Allmendinger got there. But this team was kind of up on the up and up, building something with Justin Haley, starting to win races. And I thought this team was going to become the team of the Xfinity Series in this decade. They've always been a second tier team. Yeah, that's kind of all I have to say there. And I said a driver who is not in any national series will win an Xfinity Series championship. That was another kind of layup one, but it happened rather quickly with Ty Gibbs, the one I believe it was 2022. I think he won his championship, but dude was impressive. Quicker than I thought, at least. Ethan, yeah, 2022 Xfinity Series champion. I got that pick right, but I didn't expect to have that pick right by now. And go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing with you.
And then, kind of similar vein as earlier, Justin Haley, who was one of those Colleague drivers, I thought he would win a championship. And him being a Cup Series staple, I think that's not going to happen. You'd have to drop down in after this 2025 season to have a chance at that possibility. And at the end of the day, if you were to drop down, you'd have a good chance. I think you'd have to consider him too. But for now, I don't. That might not happen. So, moving into the Cup Series now, I had another this kind of silly one because in I want to say 2016 or so, Chris Buescher won Pocono on a fog bank. Fog ended that race early, so I said Chris Buescher will win Pocono without weather, pit strategy, or disqualification, saying he'll win on outright pace. Basically, hasn't happened yet, but obviously can be. I think there's a good chance of that happening. And then, in a similar vein, Justin Haley won 2019 Daytona. When where all the drivers came in and pitted, he stayed out, and then the rain came and lightning came, didn't get back going again. So I said Justin Haley will win Daytona without weather, pit strategy, disqualification of double yellow line, kind of just on pace. Hasn't happened yet, but I think could. And then here's where I start to go on a roll, Ethan. A little bit of a roll here. A winner will be disqualified, and the NASCAR the previous season had just introduced a rule where they disqualify guys for whatever reason. And now that with that new rule, I thought, oh, someone's going to get disqualified at some point, and it happened. It was with a Pocono race. I want to say 2022, if my memory serves me right, where Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch both got disqualified from first and second, respectively. That allowed Chase Elliott to get that victory. And then my next one was the championship will leave Phoenix Raceway. I'm on this. I will be sad. Yes, I was sad, and yes, the championship will leave Phoenix Raceway. A lot of people thought when Phoenix was announced it would be a kind of a placeholder. I thought so too, but it lasted longer than I thought it would. And then I wrote the Gen 7 Cup car will be in Cup by 2023. This was, think, pre-COVID, and the fact that, okay, they just started testing and they had announced it was going to be in 2021. But with that, I said in my video that I made, I think they're going to delay it because getting a cup off the ground in racing in just like 2-3 years is going to be very quick turnaround. I think they're going to delay it a bit, but I said they'll be in cup by that time. 2020 and January 2020, Andrew didn't know that the world would shut down for a bit due to virus, and that did delay the next gens by only 1 year. So I kind of had that. Well, I had that right in what I predicted, and then I kind of had it right in like my sub prediction as well. So yeah, got five more here, Ethan. This is kind of an interesting one in that I said there will be a NASCAR, IMSA, and IndyCar triple header. At that point, I believe the NASCAR and IndyCar triple header or double header was announced at the Brickyard, or might not have been actually, but it was soon announced that. I do believe that was announced by that point. And then IndyCar and IMSA had done double headers many times before, and I thought, and no, I also knew NASCAR and IMSA are owned by the same people, so I thought, oh, that's going to make sense to have them try to do a triple header at some point. Obviously, that hasn't happened. IndyCar and NASCAR are no longer doing that double header, so I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. I'd like to think it could happen, but I don't think it will. And then I threw another funny one in here. Kyle Busch will be suspended. I don't know why I was thinking at this point, but Kyle Busch has not been suspended. I think this one prediction I made of just pure off of hate. But regardless, he has not been suspended. Hasn't done anything to deserve a suspension. So, yeah. Here's where I think I made my worst prediction of all these. If you want to weigh in on this one, Hailie Deegan will win most popular driver and a race in the same season.
Why were you so high on Hailie Deegan?
Because I saw those 2 ARCA Rest races in Las Vegas and said, yeah, she's gonna be good. Without realizing, oh, it's ARCA Rest. To be fair, there were people saying that Hailie Deegan's gonna win multiple championships. Like, at the end of the day, yeah, Haley Deegan was the stocks were very high on her, and I think that's part of the reason why she disappointed.
Mm.
I know it's gonna sound, oh, you're just saying this in hindsight, but in that ARCA season where she finished behind, I think it was, who did she finish behind in that one ARCA season? She did, but of the full 4-time drivers, she finished, I believe, fourth, if memory serves me right. 2020 ARCA Menard Series, she finished behind Brett Holmes and Michael Selft. Oh, she did wind up beating Drew Dollar at the end, but only by 27 points. And everyone knew before, Drew Dollar is not very good at driving race cars. And she's only beating him by 27. Yeah, she might not be good. So at that point, I was off her stock. And then she disappointed in trucks and then disappointed in Xfinity. So yeah, um, a big swing and a miss. But here's one I took a big a swing at, and that with Andrew assuming Haley Deegan was going to move to Cup at some point in the decade and win most popular driver, that one doesn't seem as obvious as it does now. Chase Elliott will win most popular and a championship in the same season. At that point, he had just got his first career wins, hadn't done much outside of that. So I was kind of going out on a limb there. But a couple years later, he proves me right. And then my final prediction was naming 5 drivers that will retire. And they were Clint Boyer, Kurt Busch, Kevin Harvick, Ryan Newman, and Jimmy Johnson, who have all retired. Some people are going to say, oh, Jimmy's not technically retired, but he's from full-time driving. He's in the Hall of Fame, so for all intents and purposes, um, he's retired. So with my picks, I went 6, 8. I've gotten 8 right. I think I've ruled out 8 from happening, with the final 5 kind of being up in the air. So not a bad rate. I think the goal when I made it was to hit 50%. So yeah, Ethan, what are your just overall thoughts on my predictions then, and looking now on how some of those aged?
I mean, you did do pretty well on. I mean, I think even for the time, you were probably too high on Haley Deegan, but overall, you're pretty good. I mean, it's hard to make predictions. So good job.
Hmm. Thank you. I We're halfway through. We'll see how the rest of these go. I think I'll be under that 50% mark. At the end of the day, it really just depends on the Kyle Busch suspension. If that happens, could happen tomorrow. Could happen tomorrow if he does drugs or something.
That's a crazy thing to say.
Like, stranger things have happened. And then you have your Justin Haley win Daytona and Chris Buescher winning Pocono. That would put me over the 50% line. So I think that's my easiest way to do it at this point. So yeah, it's possible, but unlikely, I would say. So with that, Ethan, it was a long episode. I think it's going to be about 100 minutes. Thank you all for listening to this yap. And this has been episode 19. Do you have anything else to say, Ethan?
I'm tired.
All right. Goodbye, all.
See ya.
Ross Chastain is still and perfect.
Wheel on the track.
Did you leave the wheel loose?
You picked the fine time to leave me loose, wheel.